Shadows of Regret, written by Khaled El-atta. In the gritty underbelly of the city where the streets whispered secrets and neon lights flickered like nervous witnesses, there lived a cat named Elias. Just another soul grinding quietly in the background, stacking crates in a rundown warehouse that smelled of sweat, rust, and abandoned ambitions. He wasn't a legend, wasn't a villain, wasn't anyone people remember twice. Just a man surviving shift to shift in a world that moved too fast to notice who fell behind. Days bled into nights under the hum of forklifts and the sharp voice of his boss, Harlan, an old-timer hardened by disappointment, carrying the scent of cheap liquor in years that never paid him back. "Move faster," Harlan barked, words landing heavier than the boxes Elias lifted. Elias never argued. He lowered his head, did the work, and saved his energy for breathing through another day. Home wasn't much better. His apartment sagged with age, walls thin enough to share every neighbor's argument, every late-night regret. Floorboards groaned beneath his steps like they resented existence itself. No friends, no partner, no noise except the quiet rhythm of loneliness and shadows crawling across the ceiling when streetlights slipped through torn curtains. That silence became dangerous, because silence gives thoughts room to grow. It began small. After one exhausting shift, Elias stopped at the corner store for cigarettes and cheap beer. Clara, the elderly clerk with trembling hands, miscounted his change. $1 short. Nothing important. But to a man already carrying invisible weight, small things feel personal. As Elias walked home through rain-slick streets, that missing dollar replayed in his mind. Not the money, the feeling. Being overlooked, being dismissed, being the one who absorbs mistakes without complaint. That night he couldn't sleep. The moment repeated endlessly. Her hands, her smile, the quiet assumption that he wouldn't speak up. By morning, irritation had turned into something heavier. He returned to the store, not to argue, but to watch. Across the street, unnoticed, he studied her routine. Morning arrival, careful counting, slow movements shaped by age. What began as curiosity hardened into habit. Days passed, then weeks. Elias skipped work just to observe, following her from distance to the modest home where cats greeted her like family. The darkness arrived gradually, never announcing itself. At first, it was imagination, wondering how she would react if she knew she was watched. The rush broke the monotony of his life. For the first time in years, he felt alert, alive. He told himself it meant nothing, but meaning grows where attention lives. Soon his own life unraveled. Missed shifts led to warnings. Warnings led to dismissal. Harlan fired him without hesitation. "You're drifting," he said. "A ghost." The word stayed with Elias. Ghost. Bills stacked. Hunger sharpened his thoughts. And slowly, unfairness needed a face, and Clara became that face. She represented every loss, every humiliation, every moment Elias swallowed instead of confronting. One storm-heavy night, under a sky dark enough to hide intention, Elias followed her home. Rain blurred the city lights into broken reflections. His heart pounded, half fear, half something worse. He knocked. Clara opened the door, recognition flickering softly. "You from the store? You owe me," Elias said, voice tight with years that had nothing to do with her. Confusion turned to fear. Words escalated. Emotion outran reason. And in one irreversible second, the knife flashed. Silence followed. Clara fell. Elias stood frozen, realization arriving too late. He hadn't planned this, hadn't imagined it would go this far. But reality does not negotiate with intention. He ran. Back home, he scrubbed himself raw, yet nothing washed away. The news called a robbery gone wrong. No suspects. Relief lasted minutes. Then guilt began its work. Sleep abandoned him. Every sound felt like accusation. Every siren carried his name. He locked himself inside, surviving on scraps while his thoughts grew louder. Soon shadows moved without permission. Voices whispered truths he refused to say aloud. One night, convinced someone watched him, Elias smashed his mirrors, shards cutting his hands as if consequence demanded payment. Weeks turned to months. Isolation reshaped his mind. He wrote confessions he never sent, apologies meant for no audience. Clara appeared in dreams, then waking moments, not screaming, not vengeful, only present. She spoke of her life, loss, work, survival, and Elias understood too late that she had been carrying burdens just like his. The realization hurt more than fear, because monsters are easier to hate than ordinary people. His body weakened. His apartment decayed. The city ignored him the way cities ignore quiet suffering. One stormy night, darkness swallowed the building during a power outage. A knock echoed through the hallway. He opened the door to emptiness. Yet Clara stood behind him. Not real, but undeniable. "You owe," she whispered. "Not revenge. Truth." Elias collapsed under the weight of it. He thought of surrendering, but fear chained him. Alcohol blurred the edges, but sharpened the guilt. Every attempt to escape only deepened the fall. Lying on the floor after another hallucination-driven rage, Elias finally saw his life clearly. Not as a victim story, but as a series of moments where silence replaced courage, resentment replaced healing. The dollar had never mattered. The pain he refused to face had. That night, surrounded by notebooks filled with confession, Elias made his final decision. He poured gasoline across the room, sat quietly at the center, and struck a match. Flames rose slowly, then hungrily. For the first time in months, his breathing slowed. Not relief, acceptance. Sirens arrived too late. The city labeled it tragedy and moved on. Another lonely man gone. Another story folded into urban silence. But stories do not truly end. They linger as warnings. Because Elias was never unique. He was ordinary, and that is what makes his fall frightening. Every person carries shadows. The difference lies in whether we face them while they're small, or wait until they become stronger than us. And somewhere, in another quiet apartment, another tired soul sits alone tonight, replaying a small injustice, deciding whether to let it go or let it grow. The streets remain the same. Only the choice is the end.